Well, I thank you, Madam Chairman. It's good to have you as chair here next to my friend and our former chair, Senator Wyden. To those on the panel, good morning and welcome. I apologize that I was tardy this morning, not because I wasn't anxious to hear the wisdom and the opinions of each of you. I thank you for your leadership in so many different areas. I think it was you, Mr. Goldwyn, that mentioned that it's not whether in terms of exports, but whether we act in time to help. As I know some of you are aware, I have released a series of white papers after my Energy 2020 report from last year, and we released one about this narrowing window when it comes to our opportunities for export. And so when we talk about these issues, I do think it is important to keep it in the context of timing. I also recognize that we are in an enviable position as a nation. The fact that we are having a hearing of this nature talking about our energy opportunities for export from a position of abundance rather than one of scarcity, which we so often seem to focus on. To be able to discuss our natural gas, our oil, our other resources as truly a strategic asset is something that I think is a remarkable story coming out of the United States, and our ingenuity that's driven by technologies that's allowing us to access amazing resources in this country. So it is a fabulous conversation to be having today. I want to drill down a little bit here on the discussion of what we can do today to make a difference over in the Ukraine, have influence on Russia. And the proposal that, or the discussion that we've been having about, well, if in fact we were to accelerate the permitting process through DOE, in fact, that doesn't get gas to Ukraine or anywhere, at least for a couple years. And so therefore, if we can't do something, by gosh, today to get our gas over across the water, then it's not worth doing. I have suggested that it is about the signal that is sent, about the United States' role, our leadership role from a geopolitical perspective that is as instrumental as anything. Mr. Chow, I think you used the term that it's irrelevant in the short run. What I'd like to hear from each of you is how important is that signal that is sent if we are to accelerate our permitting through the DOE process. Mr. Szymanski, if you can kind of speak to it from the pricing perspective, what does it mean not only in Europe but in Asia? If we are to act more aggressively with the signals that come out of this administration saying we're serious about being a player on the world scene. And if we can truly just go down through the panel and each give your observation as to how significant a signal is as opposed to actual gas into our friends and our allies' systems. Mr. Szymanski, we'll start with you.
Senator Murkowski, I think signals could certainly be important. They have to be followed up by concrete action to ultimately have the impact not be temporary.
And by concrete action, does it need to be more than an expedited process?
Well, for example, the gas actually entering into the marketplace in some way. I think you could argue that the increase, the very strong increase in domestic production in the U.S. has already had some impact because our imports of natural gas are much lower now than they were projected to be just 5 years ago. So that's freed up other gas in the global markets to be available to other consumers like Europe and Asia. The possibility that the U.S. would enter into the global markets with LNG exports after the completion of the LNG facility at Sabine Pass, I think has already had some impact on the psychology of long-term contracts. There have been companies who have indicated that they have had felt that they had more successful opportunities to negotiate with large gas suppliers for better contract terms than they would have had the facility in Louisiana not already be under construction.
Let's quickly go down. Minister Neverovic, how would signals be received over in Lithuania and other nations?
Yes, thank you very much for this question. It's absolutely important signal which you can send. I can bring your attention to the fact that there are companies which trade in gas which already are moving to base their pricing on more spot market model. But majority of the contracts are still being done on the basis of long-term contracting, long-term pricing. So this is where it is important that any signal which is there, which is sent to the market, it could strengthen the buyers. They could feel more comfortable knowing that there will be more gas in the market, and their position would be much stronger vis-à-vis the especially monopolist suppliers, that we don't have to attach ourselves to these long-term contracts, knowing that there will be gas on the market and possibly it will be more competitive. So this signal would be very important, I would say.
And I'd like if the three of you all would answer that really quickly for the senator, just take 30 seconds each. Is it important? How important is the signal, really quickly?
Yes, I believe it's important. It's my opinion that we see evidence across economic markets that signals work. It's also important that they be credible, and I think that's a great advantage of this kind of a signal because it's actually in our narrow economic interest to facilitate exports as well as strategic.
Mr. Goldwyn?
I think from a diplomatic point of view, a signal is important for diplomatic strategic reassurance. We spent decades trying to get other countries to provide gas to Europe. If we would actually do it ourselves, I think that would be powerful. So it impacts financing. If you're accessing Henry Hub prices as opposed to high-priced guttery, it's cheaper to get financing for those projects overseas. Third, I think it would impact the market cap for Russian companies right now, because if they have a lower market share or they're getting lower revenues, then their prices on global markets will be lower. And I think it impacts price formation. Even Asian buyers, as Dr. Szymanski has indicated, are waiting to see if U.S. LNG will come into the market so they can get lower prices rather than oil-linked prices. So it's, buy the rumor, sell the fact, whatever your aphorism is. When we do things in the market today, those signals have immediate impact, even if the end game is long-term.
Dr. Chow, really quickly, and then I'm going to turn to Senator Wyden.
I think the most important signal we can give right now in response to Russia's aggression in Ukraine is to strengthen the Ukrainian economy. Ukraine could be self-sufficient in gas in a faster period of time than you can build an LNG terminal in Ukraine. Ukraine, until the 1970s, exported gas to the Russian Republic. It is the pervasive corruption and inefficiency in the Ukrainian energy system that makes Ukraine vulnerable. Ukraine continues to transit more than 50% of Russia's gas to Europe. If we strengthen Ukraine, that would be the most important signal to the Kremlin, it would seem to me. Frankly, senators, $1 billion loan guarantee is a pretty feeble response to what has already happened.